Hello, I'm Gail Ellis and welcome to PEPELT, Picture Books in European Primary English Language Teaching. And our theme for January is celebrating inclusion, and our picture book of the month is Perfectly Norman by Tom Percival. Sandy has spoken about the picture book as objects, Tasha, the picture book and teacher education, and I'm going to be talking about the picture book and multiliteracies. Perfectly Norman can be used to develop emotional literacy because we can identify the different emotions, the cycle of emotions that Norman experiences as the story unfolds. Now, I was lucky enough to share this picture book with participants attending a TESOL France workshop in Paris on Sunday. And I presented the book using the cover quite quickly because I wanted to use the prologue illustration to introduce Norman and ask participants to say what they felt about Norman. For example, he's a happy boy who likes playing outside with his dog and his kite. And the story begins and we see Norman again throwing a stick for his dog. Norman had always been normal, perfectly normal, until one day, and I asked participants to predict, until one day he had an accident. He lost his dog, he lost his kite, he was enchanted, somebody cast a spell on him. So you can imagine our surprise, which we share with Norman. We can see his facial expression here, that he grew a pair of wings. Now the wings are a visual marker of his difference. And in an interview with Tom Percival for the Book Trust, he explains that the wings are a metaphor for Norman's difference, and they could represent anything. So they could represent any difference. And we have to remember that many people have differences that are not visible. So Norman has experienced, he's happy, he's surprised, and then he decides to try out his wings, and he experiences great joy. He had the most fun ever. He's elated, but then he begins to worry. He begins to worry about his own attitude towards his difference. What will his parents think? What will his friends think? So he decides to hide and to conceal his difference. And this becomes quite problematic. It makes everyday activities like bath time and bedtime difficult. It prevents him from participating in playtime activities with his friends, prevents him from going in the swimming pool, and he becomes frustrated. And then one day, a boy decides to bully him. And this makes poor Norman angry, sad, and hot-faced. And he wished he'd never grown those stupid wings. So we're coming to a turning point, and he looks up into the sky and he sees the colourful birds, which represent freedom and self-expression. And for me, this is the most powerful sentence in the picture book, in the story. It occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was making him miserable, not the wings. It's a moment of understanding, of self-realization and acceptance of his difference. So with the help of his and encouragement of his supportive and understanding parents, he takes off his coat, accepts his difference, and he flies up into the sky. And the cycle now is coming back to from understanding and acceptance to happiness. And then this is my favorite illustration in the book, which on first reading may quite easily be overlooked. It's these four diverse children at the bottom of the page, their heads and necks kind of popping up out of the page and looking up in the sky at Norman. And they too are wearing heavy coats. And inspired by Norman, they have the courage to take off their own coats and join Norman in the sky. And of course, they too also have wings. Now, remember the metaphor that the wings are a metaphor for difference. So I would like to ask children to think about what the differences these children might have And I would also show them a film, a CBeebies film, which shows children talking about differences. And these children, they've been paired quite obviously by visible differences related to ethnicity and race, to disability, to size and height, and to gender. But they're not the differences that the children talk about. They talk about quite different differences. And I would also use the picture book to introduce the whole concept of the social model of inclusion. And this is a model where it's not the individual or the difference that is the problem, it is the barriers in society that are the problems to full participation and equal participation. And in this case, it was Norman's own attitude towards his difference, his fears of other people's attitudes towards his difference, and of course the physical barrier of the coat. I would also use Perfectly Norman because to develop first steps in film literacy, because it's accompanied by a 55-second book trailer, a video. And I would divide my class into groups and ask each group to look for different things. For example, the use of music, the use of sound effects, the use of color, the use of the narration. And like many of these book trailers, there is a moral at the end, which is find the courage to be yourself, which is exactly what Norman did and also inspired others to find the courage to be themselves. So that's it from me, and I wish you all a very happy 2019, and we look forward to Annetta, who's going to talk to us about how she uses Perfectly Norman in the classroom.